Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Morning.
Hi, sir. How are you? Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, team.
Can you hear me? Dheeraj, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Siddiqui sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Dheeraj sir, I've made you the co-host.
Thank you.
I'll quickly start the tech check. Good morning, everybody. I'm from the tech team from Nido.
Hello.
We'll start with Hitesh Chaniara, sir. Sir, can you speak 2 sentences so that we can quickly check on your audio quality?
Yeah. Very good morning to all the speakers and participants from India and Japan. I hope my voice is clear.
Absolutely clear, sir. Loud and clear. Thank you very much. Your video quality is also coming out fine. Coming on to AM Siddiqui, sir. Sir, can you please adjust the flap a little bit so that we can see more of you? AM Siddiqui, sir.
Sir, can you hear? Siddiqui sir.
Siddiqui, sir, am I able to?
Siddiqui sir is not able to hear.
So you will have to check on your audio headset.
मेरी voice भी नहीं जा रही.
No, we can hear you. We can hear your voice. But it seems you are not able to hear our voice.
Yes.
I will check with Siddiqui sir, and you meanwhile you can go ahead with others. Yeah.
Proceed with Hattori Genryu, sir. Sir, can you please speak a few sentences so that we can check on your audio quality?
Oh, sorry.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Your video quality is good as well. Thank you. I'd request others also to please put on your videos so that we can test your video and audio quality. Hitesh Chaniara, sir, do you have anything to share in terms of any presentation?
Yes, we do have. One of my colleagues will be sharing that.
So would you want to share it here?
Yes, Shriram, if you can just check whether we are able to share.
Yeah. I was just talking to Ravi is here. Okay, it says host has disabled attendee screen sharing.
So please check once again.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm able to.
All right. So meanwhile, we could also check your audio quality and your video quality, sir. Sriram, sir. So it's fine. And the presentation that you shared, we can see it very well, clearly. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Ravi.
Sir.
Yeah. Hi, Dish. Hi, Sriram.
Hi, Ravi.
Sir, the background that you have put up, actually, we can see a little distortion in your video.
Okay.
Because of your headrest of the chair, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So what should I do for it?
So I would request if you could maintain a stabler position so that there's no movement in your video and there's no distortion as well.
Okay.
Your audio quality is fine. I would just request if you can adjust your flap a little bit so that we can see more of your video. That's much better, sir. That's much better. Thank you. Abhijit Pathade, sir, can we please have your video put on?
Yeah, sure.
Yoshiro Kaku, sir, can we please have your video put on?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hiteshi-san, Sriram-san. Good morning.
Good morning.
So your video audio
Thank
quality
you
both
for
are good
coming,
enough.
Kuchi-san, Pasada-san. Thank you for coming.
Sir, do you have any presentation to share, Yoshiro sir?
Oh, no. Today I don't have any remarks,
All right, sir.
so no problem.
Thank you. And lastly, Abhijit Patharde sir. So you will be in the same space. If you could adjust a little, I mean a flap a little bit so that we can see a straight.
Yeah, Abhijit and Pulkit don't have any video or screen to share.
Okay,
so
that's fine then. So you can
yeah.
please go off. No problem. No
Yeah, yeah.
problem. Thank you.
Shall I also check once? I have a couple of slides for me.
Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
Sir. Please share your screen. Please share your screen.
Is this okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
So to all the panelists, we'll be starting very shortly. So before we start, I'll give you a countdown. Like we are going live in 3, 2, 1, like this, and then we can start with the first presenter or the speaker for the day.
Ari.
All right.
Yes, so Ari. Hello, Hitesh Singh, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir. Absolutely clear.
Okay, thank you.
Dheeraj sir, we are done with the tech checks of the current panel.
Mr.
Hitesh, can you just check with the other panelists? Tech team, can you just be on standby? There's one more panelist who is supposed to join.
Sure, sir. Noted.
Yeah.
Pulkit Saran sir is also there.
Yeah. Abhijit and Pulkit will not have video
Okay,
and
he'll also
screen
not
to
have
share.
video.
Yeah.
Sure. Dheeraj sir, Mr. Shivram Bikina is there in the attendees. Should I promote him?
I have promoted already.
Okay, sir.
I have promoted him. Yes, if he will. You can test. with him
Mr.
as well.
Shivram Bikina sir, I would request if you can please put on your video. Meanwhile, to other panelists, 5 minutes to go live. Mr. Shivram Bikina, sir, can you please put on your video and unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm just setting it up. Just give me a second.
Sure.
I wanted to share a presentation. So is that the way we're working or?
Is it possible to switch on your video, or you are not able to do that?
No, I'm doing that. Just give me a second.
And then see in the middle of the screen, there is a share screen button. Yeah, great.
Can you see me? Yeah. Hi.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can just put up your slides just for testing.
Shivram, sir, your audio quality and your video quality both are perfect. If you'd like to share anything, just try sharing a file.
Yeah. So can you see the screen?
Yes, we
Yes.
can see it, sir.
So fine. So then I'll do the same thing.
Sure, sure.
Do that. So now I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
So great.
Dheeraj, sir, there are more attendees in the attendee panel. We'll be going live in 2 minutes.
So all the panelists have joined in. The rest of them are attendees.
Okay,
We
sir.
welcome them as well.
One minute to go live. Five seconds. We can go live in 3, 2, 1, and we are live now.
Very good morning to all speakers and participants from India, and very good afternoon, konnichiwa, to all participants from Japan. A warm welcome to NEDO India webinar on greening the power consumption of industries, options, opportunities, and outlook. My name is Hitesh Chaniara, and I'm Executive Director with PwC India. Today, I'll be your host and panel moderator. Over the next 90 minutes, we have an action-packed agenda. Before we begin, I would like to familiarize you all with a couple of housekeeping rules. All participants will be kept on mute mode during the event. Participants can send their queries to the host using the chat feature available on their screens of the Zoom platform. Now I'm pleased to invite Mr. Genryu Hattori, representative NEDO India, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Hattori-san.
Namaskar, distinguished guest speakers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Genryu Hattori, representative NEDO New Delhi office. I'm extremely happy to make opening remarks in this webinar on greening the power consumption of industries, options, opportunities, and outlook. At the outset, I'd like to introduce about NEDO. NEDO is an autonomous administrative agency under the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, Government of Japan. The main objective of NEDO is to promote development and introduction of new technologies. Since its establishment, NEDO has undertaken technology development, demonstrating projects and system improvement with the aim of improving Japan's global competitiveness and addressing social issues in an integrated manner. NEDO New Delhi office is looking after NEDO's activities in South Asia and Middle East. In India, NEDO has implemented various demonstration projects in the field of smart community, such as solar power generation with microgrid system, energy storage, green telecom towers, and green hospitals, and energy efficiency in large industrial sector, such as steel and cement. This fiscal year, we commissioned PwC to conduct a survey on carbon market in India, efforts towards carbon neutral, and financial situation of DISCOMs in India. We discussed the outcome of the report, and in this webinar, we intend to bring stakeholders in industries in India to come together and present views on this topic and suggest future course of action and way forward. With the passage of Energy Conservation Amendment Act 2022, there is a great deal of emphasis on sustainability and carbon market. Therefore, Indian industries will have to go for greener options for power consumption, an alternative source of energy. With new act formalized, therefore, questions of available technology, options, and financing. This webinar will try to explore and dive deep into such questions of policy trends and technology, with a focus on understanding the new amendments. In addition to the points I have mentioned above, I believe that collaboration between India and Japan will become increasingly important. Japan and India has always been partner, and this year is special in this partnership, and Japan is presiding G7 and India is presiding over G20. I'm looking forward for informative and participative webinar. Thank you. Dhanyawad. Let's go back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Hattori-san, for the welcome address. Now, I am delighted to welcome and introduce our eminent speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Shivaram Vikina, Chief of Renewable Business, Tata Power. Mr. Shivaram is catering to B2B and B2C segments for Tata Power Renewable Energy Limited. He is heading the division with an oversight of all the activities across the value chain. He comes with a rich experience of managing consumer businesses across multiple geographies, including India and South Asia, and across varied industries such as consumer durables and renewables. Prior to Tata Power, he spent 18 years in Whirlpool of India Limited, where he was heading South Asia business. Our second speaker is Mr. Ravi Kiran Kuchi, Vice President, Business Development at Indian Energy Exchange. He is the Regional Head, Business Development for the South, East, and Northeastern region of India. He is an electrical engineer from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University and a postgraduate in management from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. He has more than 17 years of experience across the value chain of power sector. Earlier, he has worked with the Central Transmission Utility of India, PwC, EY, and Semcorp Green Infra. Our third speaker is Mr. Sriram Potluri, Director, Power and Utilities, PwC India. He has over 13 years of experience on various aspects of power sector and specializes in the power market segment. He has experience spanning across India, Middle East, and South Asia. He has advised several clients on open access, connectivity, captive deals, and power sourcing aspects. Once again, a very warm welcome to all the speakers and all participants in this webinar. Moving on, let's set the context of this webinar. So there are three, Sriram, if you can put the presentation. Thank you. Yeah, if you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So there are three dominant forces which are driving the energy transition from conventional energy to clean energy across the globe. We call them 3D: decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization. Today, we are going to focus on the first D, that is decarbonization. There are several pressing reasons why the energy sector is forced to adopt decarbonization. Some of these are demand for natural resources such as coal, petroleum, minerals, etc. is outstripping the capacity of the earth to produce them. Second is, in light of multiple geopolitical forces, energy security has become more important than ever across the globe, which is resulting in reduced reliance on imports of coal, petroleum, etc. Third, the entire world has accepted that the climate change is a real and serious phenomena. So actions to reduce impact on climate change are inevitable before we reach irreversible tipping point. All the forces are driving industries and corporates to adopt transformation of their businesses toward net zero. Worldwide, focus is increasing on decentralized sources of clean energy, specifically solar and wind, as a means to accelerate efforts towards decarbonization and build resilience in the electricity value chain. With this context, I am now handing over the stage to my colleague Sriram Potluri for providing an overview of opportunities and key considerations in renewable energy procurement by industries. Over to you, Sriram.
Yeah, I hope I'm audible. Thank you, Hitesh. So here, industries play a key role in India's sustainable development. So if you look at the contribution of industries, so they are contributing 31% of India's GDP. And the commercial industrial segments actually are accountable for 37% of electricity consumption in India. And coincidingly, this is the segment which is accounting for a total of 40% of emissions in the entire emissions with respect to India. So we all understand government is very focused on actually promoting the industries, and it is with this industrial growth the development of India is going to be in the future, and hence it is formulated various policies on Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is on Vision 2047. There are various segments. They are launching the PLI schemes, and they have constantly been increasing on the ease of doing business. So that is actually leading to a lot of industries investing in India and setting up manufacturing facilities and their commercial facilities in India. So now that the industries, we have established that industries is a key role to play in the growth of India. So now let's look at that. What is it for the industries also with respect to the renewable energy space? So if we look at the renewable energy, India is actually bestowed with a strong potential. So over 1,000 gigawatt of renewable energy potential is there, and we have multiple technologies to play in actually India, which is solar, wind, hydro, bio, waste to energy. And the policy also makes a strong commitments for the growth additions, which the government of India has made in the recent COP on the Panchamrit. And with these initiatives, we are seeing a lot of investments are coming into the renewable energy space, especially with the initiatives such as the 100% FDI, with the National Green Energy Mission, the renewable purchase obligations, green energy corridors. So from the consumption side and from the potential side, India is in a very good space to capitalize on the green energy growth story. So let's look at for a time why green power for industries. So as we talked about, the government of India is very clear actually on the growth agenda for the green. So they have announced the 500 gigawatt green energy by 2030. So they have announced that 50% of the energy needs by 2030 will be met by renewables. So they've already talked about the net zero by a long target of 2070. And they have also talked about the reducing carbon emissions and carbon intensity with the targets. So they have shown commitment and policy. They are showing policy initiatives on the supply side. So it gives an opportunity for industries to capitalize on the upcoming renewable energy. Next is actually on the business responsibility or sustainable development. So globally, we have seen a lot of industries and consumers actually going on the decarbonization journey. So they are adopting net zero targets. They are giving out net zero targets. They are giving out RE100 targets. And there is a lot of the board agenda, which is ESG enthused, which is taking into play here. And a lot of industries are also taking up these targets because of their where their consumption market is driven. So meaning that you are an industry setting up in India, but you have some exports to a certain country, and the export orient that country is actually setting up some targets for the consumption of RE. So naturally, the industries here are adopting that. And lastly, on the access to capital. So now and going forward, so there is going to be a lot of capital which is going to be tagged to green, and it will be more accessible for industries to take this on easier platform. Next is on the economic sustainability. So with the solar tariffs and the renewable energy tariffs becoming very cost competitive, so it is giving an immense opportunity for the industries to explore and adopt the renewable energy. So earlier, the renewable energy tariffs were very high, and then they were not reflective of or probably on the higher side because of technology and other. But now that they have come down, so industries are more and more actually adopting. And next is on the operational reliability. So there have been some challenges with respect to the grid supply in certain parts of the country in India. And this is the reason why more and more industries are actually adopting for the captive mode. So be it, for example, the rooftop, or be it for on the their own dedicated captive. This way, they're able to ensure the reliability of their core operations by having better quality of supply. So it's actually a twin objective for the industries, that they're getting the green power at the economical rates, cost competitive rates, and also through these captive or the other options, they are able to enhance the quality of supply, thereby increasing their reliability of operations. And also some industries are also actually adopting for the instead of whenever there is a backup option which is needs to be exercised, so they are trying to see if this backup option can be actually replaced with the RE plus some storage option, so that instead of using a DG set or some other backup option, let me use RE plus storage. So thereby I'm actually cutting down again on the cost which I'm actually incurring for my backup, and then I am also helping in reducing the emissions. So let's look at the options. So there are actually a plethora of options which are actually available for industries to procure from green power, be it the green tariffs. So one is that distribution utilities in certain states are actually adopting for green tariffs. So they have an option, so industries can opt for that green tariff. The second option is the on-site, so they can have an on-site renewable energy, preferably probably a rooftop solar plant, so under the net metering or behind the meter scheme, or they can actually procure renewable energy through open access. So it could be a bilateral arrangement, or it could be a captive arrangement, or a group captive arrangement. So this could be a larger size deals, or they can actually explore the market. So there is a lot of options right now available in the power exchange segment. So this my other panelists are going to focus more on what are the options available. So I'm keeping it short here. And lastly, actually, they can obviously purchase the renewable energy certificates to count. So, but more, we have seen industries opting for procuring the green power, because in that manner, they are actually also saving some cost actually on the electricity part also, rather than only procuring for the certificates. So again, so there are a lot of policies which are actually coming up at the state and the central level, which are actually promoting, and the tariffs which are actually at the commercial and industrial segments are also actually prompting for the industries to opt one of these options. So let's quickly look at what are some key considerations for industries to while they are actually adopting on the renewable energy journey. So firstly, the industries they need to decide what will be their goals. So it is with these goals the onward strategy and adoption is going to take place. So they need to decide what will be my short-term RE goal, what will be my long-term RE goal. Is it going to be my RE goals are going to be set based on my consumptions, or based on I'm going to go RE 100 by 2030 or 2040, or do I have a mix? Because it is with this percentage which they are going to decide the next onward assessments of technology and policy, and then the business model are linked. So firstly, industry should have a very clear discussion amongst their management to decide what are their goals and how do they achieve it. Next is actually on the load assessments. So we've seen that many industries actually just look at their consumption in past 6 months or past 3 years or past 1 year, and try to devise an RE strategy and then link up the supply to match their requirement. But the more optimal way to do it is going forward for a load assessment. So firstly, analyze your load pattern in terms of what is your most essential load, what is your most critical load, can it be optimized, and going forward. So once you have a more clear analysis of your load, you will be able to match the supply in a more optimum manner. And secondly, again, a lot of industries have some capital expansions actually planned, and then they're going to increase their load patterns. And then, for example, even if a capex facility is incurred, there's going to be a trajectory for the load to increase. So it is essential to see the historic trends and also the future trends in terms of how the load is going to grow. So is it going to grow 10% every year? So that way, the industries can decide on what technologies to adopt and what will be my scale up plan for the renewable. So whatever you decide today is not going to be the cast in stone for the renewable energy for the future. So it is important for us to understand, do you have some expansion facilities coming up in future, or the existing facility, is it going to actually an increase in the demand, is something which needs to be assessed. The next is the most important decision factor or the consideration is the technology. So as I said, the goals also have a critical influence on the technology. So you can go for solar, you can go for wind, or you can go for an hybrid, or you can go all of this with a storage option. So all of this come with a particular cost and they have a CUF. So for example, your solar has a particular CUF of 20-22%. It generates during the day and it has a load curve pattern. So now it is important for the industries to assess that whether this load pattern is actually matching my, whether this generation pattern is actually matching my load pattern is something which needs to be assessed. Again, as I said, that once you have a clear clarity on your goals, then you will be more aptly able to choose the right technology. And also it is market driven. So what is something which is actually going in the market is something which industries needs to adopt in terms of technology. So whether something hybrids are very popular and in a particular state the policy is very conducive, it is coming up. So it is more, that option can be evaluated by the industries. Next is actually on the policy and the regulatory environment. This is the most critical aspect which industries needs to decide wherever they are in terms of what is the current state and the central policies which they currently located in, and they're trying to go for an RE. So it is important that, for example, your load, if your target is a smaller target, so maybe solar policy in that state might make sense for you, even when all of the industries, for example, are going for hybrid example. So it is important for the industries to analyze the current policies, whether it be solar, wind, or hybrid, whatever state policies which are there, to understand what is the most beneficial option for me. So be it in terms of incentives or capital subsidies. And in addition to this, it is also important for industries to understand the operational aspects, because many times we have observed that there's industries or consumers actually keep looking up to the levelized tariff number or the capital expansion. How much equity should I need to put in if it is a capital deal? But also industries need to actually see what is going to be my operational aspects. So what are my grid charges? How are they varying? Who is bearing those grid charges? What are the energy banking? So for example, is a particular technology allowed for banking? Am I allowed for energy banking? Because my energy consumption and generation pattern might be very different. So what is going to be my banking mechanism within the state? And then what is going to be with the residual energy? Is there any exemptions which are there in the excise duty? So we're going to see that. And then obviously in terms of the scheduling, the deviation. So because once the industry step out of the consumption from the distribution utility into the RE, it is very important for them to recognize that they're going to come in the power market ambit, they're going to be subject to the scheduling, they're going to be subject to the deviation. So it is important that they understand these aspects, and so that the operationalization of the PPA or the agreement is more smooth. Lastly, on the business model. So this again depends actually on the cost. So what are the considerations for the industries? So whether they want to go on a capital expansion for the entire project, or whether they want to go for a captive model, or whether they want to go for a RESCO. So it is with the capital appetite of the industries, they can decide the model. So all the models have pros and cons, and then it is with their appetite for the expansion, they can decide the most suitable model and which is most beneficial for them. And lastly, in terms of just a mindset change from the traditional procurement of the utility, where the industries probably have very little role to play in terms of how the consumption is driven. So because once you're actually connected consumer, you just start consuming as your demand grows. So there is nothing much which needs to be done at the industry end. But once you're switching to the renewable energy or any other market option, so there needs to be innovation and then readiness in terms of how the contracts are going to be handled. Is my human capital ready for that? Do I have the adequate budget for that? And then if there is any intermittency, how I'm going to deal with that. Lastly, coming to the outlook. So we have seen Government of India actually Government of India and the state government announce a lot of policies and a lot of market segments, especially in the renewable energy space. So, for example, in the last 2 years, they have announced the GTAM and the GDAM segments, and they've published the Green Open Access rules, which are taking shape in states in some manner. And they have made huge investments in the green energy corridor. And there's a lot of states who have come up with state-specific policies, which give a lot of incentives for the industries. On the market segment, again, as I said, that there is power exchange-based products which are actually available. My other panelists will be talking more actually on that. And then this gives an opportunity for the industries to access market for on a short-term basis. Not only on the supply side, but government is actually very keenly pushing on the consumption side. So they are right now talking about green mobility. They're talking about green steel. They're talking about green buildings. So meaning that they are actually not only on the supply side, but only on the consumption side, they're trying to devise strategies for the industries to move towards a more greener segment. So now that, given that India has bestowed with a huge amount of renewable energy potential, so now it is for industries to decide. So it is in the next decade. So there's going to be a lot of renewable energy capacity addition, which is going to come up to meet the energy demand. So now the industries need to decide whether they're going to procure this renewable energy power directly, meeting their objectives, or whether they're going to whether this power is going to come through the distribution utilities in a mixed manner. So renewable energy additions is a certain thing, but it is for industries to decide whether they want to switch, or how they want to switch, or when they want to switch. And we already talked about the ESG agendas, which are actually driving, and this is going to become, as it is already mainstream now, and is going to become the operationalization and the implementation of the ESG agendas, which have strategies which have been fixed, is going to actually add more and more on the renewable energy consumption, which is coming exclusively for industries. So, thank you. Over to you, Hitesh.
Thank you, Shriram, for the insightful presentation and aptly setting the context. Now I am pleased to invite Mr. Shivaram Khinna, Chief Renewable Business Tata Power, to share his thoughts on emerging RE solutions by developers for industries. Over to you, Mr. Shivaram.
Thank you, Hitesh, and thank you, PwC team and NEDO team, for having me over in this webinar. Firstly, congratulations. That's a great perspective which was shared by Shriram, my earlier panelist. And I will focus on how we view the industries adopting green energy in India, and also how we, as part of Tata Power Renewables, are offering various options for the industrial consumers to adopt. So with that, it is an exciting time for both the industrial consumers as well as the developers in India, as we are seeing a massive adoption of green energy across industries. So just in FY23, we expect the demand or adoption of green energy, whether it's a rooftops or whether it's solar, wind, the renewable energy, we look at it as close to 5 gigawatts of energy requirement that's coming up in this year alone. And if you would see, that itself is more than 100% growth from the previous year. On a conservative estimate, if you look at the next 5 years, there would be 20% plus kind of growth year on year, and it doubling in the next 5 years. And this is a conservative estimate. Whether you look at on-site, on-campus or off-campus, the growths are going to be there across both these sides. Now, we've already heard as to what is driving these growths, but I'll broadly mention them again. The topmost point as to why this growth is being driven is because of economics, which is the reduction in the cost in the last few years, which is driving of the renewable energy, which is driving the growth for the industry. So there are more and more industrial consumers which are now willing to take it up because of cost reduction and a faster payback. Of course, we talked about sustainability commitments. We talked about, I think, RPO obligations, which are coming up from various players. But the fourth point which I want to stress is the ecosystem that has matured in India of both manufacturing as well as developers. Till recently, majority of our requirements of solar especially was coming from import. With more and more players setting up large capacities in India, the ecosystem and more players investing in India for development as well. So both manufacturing and development is something which is coming together. And in the next few years, we would see the benefits of this, even improving the economics or adoption for various players in India. Now, having said that, if I move on to the various industries, so the adoption is at a much wider level today. So it's not just the manufacturing industries like automobiles, steels, which are adopting. But if you see on this slide which I'm sharing, it ranges from automobiles to logistics to hospitals and healthcare to construction, information technology, cold storages, agro-based industries, so what not. These are all the industries clusters that we from Tata Power have already serviced. Multiple customers, it's not just one or two, multiple customers. So what we are seeing in India is the adoption is very widespread across different types of industries. The various solutions, the next question is what are the types of options which are present, not just from Tata Power, but from various other players. While this has been discussed, I would like to show you a progression of how the adoption is happening. So it starts with on-campus and rooftop. That's how all the customers would start, would first adopting green energy or renewable energy, which comes with a rooftop. Now, while the savings are limited in a rooftop, as you progress from rooftop to if there is a ground open space which is available within the campus, the consumers would also ask for ground mounted solar panels. Or for example, if there is a car parking space, there are carports, which I'll share images of it a little later, carports also which we develop. So the first priority for the consumers is to have their rooftop solarized, then move to the open space which is available on their campus solarized. Predominantly the solutions are solar here, and the savings are limited to medium. But as they move from on campus, their requirement is more than the savings requirement is even more. Then they would move to off campus, outside their facilities. And there are multiple options available over here as well. This is where the savings are very high. Today, the savings are up to not savings, the electricity requirement can be covered up to 90% using a combination of solar, wind, and storage. So this is the progression that happens when a consumer, when an industrial consumer wants to adopt. Starts with a rooftop, then goes on to the ground mounting, and then goes on off campus. And there are multiple solutions to in all of this. Having said that, I will quickly take you all through as to Tata Power. What do we provide? So Tata Power is India's largest integrated private power player. So we are in this business for more than 100 years now. So we are present across thermal and hydro and transmission and distribution, and coming to renewables. In renewables, we've been in this for last 30 years. So we are a player who knows the in and out of the power industry, and also been part of the power journey in India over the last 100 years. We have clearly committed. So you would see we have a lot of thermal capacities. We have as a company committed to being net zero by 2045. So which means all our coal thermal capacities have to be negated with renewable space coming up. So it's not just we providing as a developer providing renewable solutions. We are also internally investing hugely behind renewables. Now, coming to Tata Power Renewable Energy, the company which provides is into multiple solutions. We have manufacturing to begin with. We manufacture solar modules, and we are expanding the solar module manufacturing capacity to more than 4 gigawatts in the next 5 months' time. So that's a capacity that will be available to be used for development in India. Secondly, we also develop large solar wind facilities for utility scale requirements of the DISCOMs in India. Thirdly, for the industrial and residential consumers, we offer solar rooftops and all solutions around open access as well. Now, we are India's #1 for the last 8 years running. We are present across 20 plus districts, which is we are able to offer across 80% of across anywhere in India. We are also present in solar pumps, which is an agricultural requirement of pumping water for agricultural needs. And fifthly, we are also present across EV charging landscape. You all know that that's one of the most prominent and growing in automobile space. We are also into EV charging. Having said that, a quick view on what are our offerings. Pictorially, we offer on-campus rooftop spaces. These are the pictures of some marquee installations on a cricket stadium, largest one installation across the world. We also are into floating solar. If there are ponds or water bodies where it is required, we provide floating solar options. We are present across on-campus ground mounting, and like I mentioned, off-campus. In off-campus, it's not just solar, it's solar plus wind plus availability of pump storage as well. Now, coming to various installations to give you pictorially as to what all, we are present across a range which I mentioned. To start with, you see on the left-hand side top, this is one of the world's largest rooftop installation, a 16 megawatt rooftop solar installation on a rooftop. So moving to the second one, this is a solar park. While the picture is of 50 megawatts, we have solar parks up to 1 gigawatt that we're installing just in single location. We also have one of the largest floating solar installations. Interestingly, there are a lot of players who wanted carports, and we are installing one of the largest carports in Pune, which is 6.2 megawatts of carport has been installed. Vertical installations are possible. You would see solar installation on a stadium, cricket stadium. This is one of the largest that we are doing. And basis this, we are currently working on multiple stadiums of different requirements, of dome shaped, of flat, multiple requirements across the country. So coming back, these are the various customers. To give you a list of customers, reputed multinational companies across the length and breadth of the country are already adopted this, and we are partnering with them to help them with their green energy requirements. And lastly, to bring this talk to an end, we are also providing, like I mentioned earlier, various solutions, which could be right from CapEx to CapEx plus financing. This is basically a financing modalities of whether the consumer, we give options to the consumer that we would finance their requirement. We would also support them if the financing is required to be done by the consumer. Their leasing models, their group captive models, all as of now, most of the green renewable solutions that are required in India and world over for the consumers are being provided for sure by Tata Power Renewables, but not just by us. There are multiple players in India of repute who provide these solutions to the consumers. So any of your requirements which you would be having, just to add, my earlier panelist was talking about multiple this thing. I think this is a time in India that you can confidently move towards adoption. Basis, of course, your load profiles, your requirements, your energy savings requirements, and all of that. And from being a developer from our side, we can give you complete confidence of providing you your required energy solutions. With that, thanks a lot, and I would hand it back to Hitesh.
Thank you, Mr. Shivram, for interesting presentation and sharing your insights on the topic. Thank you so much. Just a quick announcement. So participants can now ask questions using the chat box feature available on the Zoom platform. We have Q&A session at the end. Thank you for your cooperation. Moving on, now I am pleased to invite Mr. Ravi Kiran Kuchi, Vice President, Business Development at Indian Energy Exchange, to share his views on green power procurement by industries through Power Exchange. Over to you, Mr. Ravi.
Thanks, Hitesh. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes.
And my screen is also visible.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And thank you, PwC team. Thank you, NEDO team. Good afternoon, all the participants. Since the context is already set, I can right away dive into the exact segment which I'm interested to talk about green markets. So I will not delve any of the other topics because I think they're well covered by earlier speakers. So just a quick introduction about what IEX does, if in case some of you may not be aware. So Indian Energy Exchange, it's an online trading platform. We are one of the 3 exchanges operating in India currently. We have been here since 2008, and we operate in multiple market segments, operating from 1 hour ahead to 3 months ahead. So we have different contracts in all these time zones. And we have a robust ecosystem of 7,000 plus registered participants. Liquidity has grown over the time, which has been the bulwark of the exchange operations. And yeah, our market share and others, it speaks for themselves. So, and in spite of all these numbers and all the earlier ecosystem which we have shown, so for example, last year we had 100 billion units which was traded. But when you compare it to the total Indian market, the size, it is still hardly 7%, or slightly more than 7%. And in India, most of the electricity contracts happen in long term. So almost 88 to 90% happen in long-term contracts. So when we are talking about exchanges or short-term markets, we are talking about that less than 1 year market segment which we are talking about. And within that 1 year, exchanges are currently allowed to operate only up to 3 months. So in future, probably they can have operation up to 1 year, but that's the maximum. So my scope will be only restricted to this because in long term, exchanges cannot be. Probably when we get futures, forwards, futures and derivatives, it may look different, but currently we don't have any product or we cannot have any offering beyond this one. About exchange, I'm quite sure at least you'd have definitely heard of this term collective markets, day-ahead market, real-time market. So, and we have other market segments where the today's focus will be, which are GTAM and GDAM, what we call as green markets, green term ahead market, green day ahead market, and there are certificate markets, renewable energy certificates. So I'll just do a quick intro about this, and depending on our interest, we can discuss in the question and answers. So we have this day ahead market where the bidding happens today for the delivery tomorrow. So it has been the premier product of exchange, which started in 2008, and it has been hugely successful. And this market now we are calling it as integrated day-ahead market because now we have added green day-ahead market also into this conventional day-ahead market. So we'll elaborate on this one. This is just a quick intro. And then we recently introduced real-time market. So in real-time market, the difference between delivery and the bid closure, it's just 1 hour. So the entire process which happens in the day-ahead market, which where there's a bidding period and there's a period where we discover prices, which you call as provisional report, and then there's a period where we have to do a provisional check with NLDC regarding the congestion, if any, and then finally we come up with a final report. So all this it's almost 8-hour process. This entire process is just squeezed into hardly 15 minutes to half an hour. 15 minutes for bidding period, that all the next steps which I mentioned is just done in 15 minutes. So if there is one market segment which has helped primarily the renewable rich distribution companies or even the introduction of green markets, it was the introduction of this real-time market. Because as we all know, the ability to forecast our demand and generation is inversely proportional to the time available. So the time between the bidding and the closure period. So closer you are to the delivery period, your accuracy is improved, and hence there's a confidence on the bids which you can put in the system. This helps. This has significantly helped for the entities which are participating in the green market or which do not have long-term PPAs, which did not have, or which are looking only for shorter-term contracts, because this has provided option for them. And then there are certificate market segments, energy saving and RECs. The earlier speakers also mentioned about this. Then we have this term ahead contracts. So in term ahead contracts, we have contracts varying from one intraday. So we call this entire segment as term ahead, but intraday and day ahead contingencies within the same day and next day. In the term ahead, we have daily, weekly, and monthly. So there are different contracts. So daily, it's from T+2. So we trade today for the delivery day after tomorrow to T+90. As I mentioned, the maximum delivery that can happen is up to 3 months. So daily is T+2 to T+90, weekly is T+1 to T+12, monthly is M1, M2, M3. And we have any day single site reverse auction, which provides absolute flexibility to buyers to come up with any kind of contract with any kind of specification. So let us say there is a customer or there is a distribution company, whoever is the buyer, he wants power from April 1st to 20th May. And in this, he has excluded, he doesn't want on weekends. Then he may exclude certain days where there may be public holidays or there may be some weather events expected. And even within those days, even within those accepted days, he may only require power only for certain hours. So the buyer is completely flexible. He can ask for whatever is required, and he can float a bid, and sellers will participate in this auction. Obviously, the more restrictions you put in the system, the sellers will have lesser interest because it may become difficult for them to manage. But there is entire flexibility for the buyers on this one. So this is one such contract which we have launched recently, even in the green markets as well. So all the contracts which I mentioned in this term ahead contracts, which are conventional markets, all of them are also replicated in this green term ahead markets where we have a suffix green. And how do we ensure that when we are talking about green term ahead contract or green day ahead market, how do we ensure that the participants who are participating in this market are only selling green power? We rely on the NOC given by the SLDC because we are just a market operator. The system operators, that is state load dispatch centers or regional load dispatch centers, NLDC, they provide us the NOC. So when the NOC no objection certificate is given, in this it is clearly mentioned, the standing clearance clearly mentions that this is the quantum of power which this particular participant is allowed to inject or draw within this month, and this is the quantum of solar, this is the quantum of non-solar, or now we are talking about hydro. So this is the quantum of hydro which is allowed. Since it is absolutely clear, and since exchange provides the certificate after the trade that this is the quantum which has been purchased, so it has given confidence to the participants gradually. I will talk about volumes as well. Has given to the participants that they can showcase this certificate for meeting their renewable purchase obligations or whatever other obligations which they need. And so I think this was well covered already, but so this is where we are operating: GTAM and GDAM, Green Term Ahead Market, and REC. So these are the three segments which are currently there with exchanges. And what is the benefit of green market? I think this was also covered in the PwC speaker's presentation. But in terms of markets, the primary difference between a market and a longer term PPAs, in market, it is absolutely flexible. It is but short term. So there is no long term commitment which is there in the market. So it works both ways. And it is the price is discovered on competitive basis, and buyer and seller may or may not clear depending on the price. So that's there. So how does it help a buyer and a seller to participate in the market? For buyer, there are no long-term rigid commitments. For seller, there is a payment security. So because in most of the contracts, we have seen significant delays, primarily on the distribution company contracts, where there is a significant delay because of the financial health of the distribution companies in payments. Now, in exchange products, there is no delay. There cannot be a delay. It's not there is no delay. There cannot be a delay because for any trade to happen, the margin money has to be deposited with exchange prior to the execution of trade. And post-trade, obviously, so we get money today in a simple balance and we pay tomorrow. That's it. So of this 14 plus years of operation where we have, we default is a big word, but we cannot even delay the payment. So that's been the stellar record of the exchange, which has given confidence for the sellers. And other advantage, other aspect, which probably is advantage for sellers, is that there is a certainty in dispatch. All contracts which happen in exchange are deemed delivered. So, but it also works both ways. There is no scope of revision. So this has been a feedback for our green markets that once a contract is executed, well, in whatever segment which I mentioned, it can be day ahead, term ahead, daily, whatever. Once a contract is executed, it cannot be revised, which happens in a longer duration contracts. So that's the flip side of the contracts in the exchanges. But how does then in this case, what is the value proposition that where we are seeing volumes? I will talk about this one later, depending on interest. These two slides, I would just want to talk about volumes first. Yeah. So then why are we seeing this spike in volumes? So in the first year, we started green term ahead market in August 2021, 21st August 21. In the first year, we had seen 785 million units. So it's very small, right? Because last year, for example, for FY22, I mentioned the total volume in exchange is more than 100 billion units. But it is still so we have 5 billion units, which is which is now in the green market. So it's okay, it's still 5%, not very high, but it is still a significant improvement over the first year. And what has driven the volumes in this one? First reason, obviously, in the first year, we have started in August, late August. So by the time the wind season is already over. Second, there are certain states, there are certain, primarily Odisha, which has given a significant waivers in terms of cross-subsidy surcharge, in terms of transmission and distribution charges, which has enhanced the viability. Third, the prices in the price discovered in this year, FY22, has been relatively lower. So which has also improved the viability for the particular customers. And because of all these reasons, and there's a significant power also available in FY23, whoever is looking at power sector, they would definitely be aware of the constrained supply scenario which we have faced in FY23 because of coal, because of issues in coal, because of issues in import of gas and coal. So that's a separate topic as well. So in FY23, the prices in exchange have also spiked. So FY22 was good. This is a good start for the green markets. It has helped give a signal to the merchant generators, and at least those generators who do not have PPAs or who do not have PPAs for the operational capacity. So what does this mean? I would like to elaborate here. Who are the sellers in this exchange market segment? One, obviously, if you are a merchant generator, if you have set up many big players are looking for setting up this merchant capacity. So let us say they have, based on the corporate balance sheet or based on other financial revenues, they would set up a merchant. They may look for short-term PPAs, but till the time those short-term PPAs are operational or do not operational, you still have an revenue. So prior to operation of green markets, there is no other revenue. You have to either sell in the conventional market at whatever price you get. Now you could actually monetize your RE attribute as well. So that's one advantage. So at least those entities which do not, the merchant capacity which is currently operation is still very low. It's hardly a couple of hundreds megawatts. Then what is the other capacity which we are seeing? There is a significant capacity from which gets operationalized every year because of this bidding, long-term bids, SECI and NVVN, whatever bids operation. In all these PPAs, there is a provision which says, there are 2-3 provisions. One which says that in case the PPA is, in case the capacity is commissioned prior to the scheduled commission date, let us say 2 months, 3 months or 4 months. And if they get the permission of the DISCOM or the buyer that they don't need this power in this time period, then these generators are free to sell the power till the operation of PPA in the market. And why are the generators interested in it? Because the price in exchange bump up their IRRs and it's immediate. There is no working capital requirement. They get the payment immediately, and it is giving a good hike for their returns. So that is one reason. And in case of surplus generation, so even this is also there in some PPAs. In case of surplus generation, even those generators are also willing to sell in the market, or can sell in the market subject to their discounts. In future, it has already started in a couple of SECI RFPs and RFQs. In future, you will see more and more this kind of capacities. We have seen these kind of clauses in the large-scale tenders, where it is allowed that only 80%, 75% of the quantum will only be tied up in the long term, and the remaining quantum will be actually sold in the market. Or there's a combination of solar wind hybrid, which specifically mentions that within certain time blocks or whenever you are excess, you are free to sell in the market. So whoever is following the long-term space, they would be quite aware that there is a significant capacity which is expected to come, which has been gradually coming into the short-term segment, which they have to mandatorily sell. And when this happens, and when the prediction of generation is quite difficult for RE, exchange market segments are the best option for these sellers. And hence, since we are getting a best option for sellers, there is an interest for the buyers also to get this, to participate in this one. So this year, the growth has been not so much. Probably will reach again the same number, or around 5 BU only. But the reason is it's because of the supply constraint scenario. First of all, the entities which are the distribution companies which are surplus, the south and primarily in the south, they could not sell because there has been a deficit scenario. So hence, and also this year we have seen good participation in the GDAM compared to the GTAM, green term ahead market, because there is not it's not much of a as and when the liquidity improves, there is a shift which gradually happens from the term ahead to the day ahead market. So now we are seeing good participation in this. So prices are completely determined by how the prices are in the other market segment. Although there is no direct correlation, the prices in the green markets are completely independent, but it also shows the strength of the market participants, that there is a congruence. There's a similarity. If you see the long-term price, if you can plot a long-term graph with the monthly prices across the different market segments, you will see a nice congruence happening between this different markets. So these are all different prices which we have kept for GTAM, GDAM, and others. Now let me just go back to those two slides which I wanted to mention. So, so how does it operationalize in GDAM, green day-ahead market? In the green day-ahead market, the sellers and buyers are free to participate in both the market segments, whether it's in conventional market or in the day-ahead market. So when you are participating in the day-ahead market, you will place your bid. Previously, let us say there is one time block. All the scheduling happens in terms of time blocks. So in one time block of 15 minutes, you have the buyer has placed a 50 megawatt at a price of 5 rupees. And he also wants to procure green power, let us say at another 20 megawatt at, let us say, 6 rupees. Now, if it is uncleared, so the clearing happens depending on the collective bids, all the bids are placed, and finally all the bids are collated, and wherever the intersection happens between the buy and the sell bids, that's the uniform clearing price. But let us ignore that portion. The price clearance and the matching mechanism, it's slightly elaborate to explain here. But once the price is discovered, we actually run the green markets first. The solution for green markets is run first. So we get a price, market clearing price and volume. And if there is a certain uncleared quantum of the seller or of the buyer in the green market, he has an option to carry forward that to the conventional market segment. So when you're carry forwarding it, let us say of this 20 megawatt, only 10 megawatt is cleared. When you're carrying it forward, you have an option to give a premium or a discount, and that particular quantum is carried to the next conventional market segment, same time. So that's how it happens. So when for a seller whose bid is not cleared, if it is carried forward to the conventional market, he is eligible to get the RECs. So this has been a recent change. Now there is a complete fungibility between the certificate segment and the electricity segment. So this portion is what I'm mentioning. So if a plant is registered under REC, they can actually sell green power as well as they can sell the certificates. And same thing holds good for the buyer. And within the REC also now there is complete fungibility. Now although it has to be operationalized, there is an operationalization delay which is happening. But now within solar, non-solar, hydro, there's a multiplier factor given. Now it's just one certificate. It will no longer be we will shortly see how it is in the process of getting operationalized. It has operationalized, but there are some certain issues which have come up in it. But within short span, now we will say a single integrated green market. So a person can actually buy solar, non-solar, green, or within certificates. So there is entire fungibility. So you can look for green power. If you're meeting your green obligations with using that green power, well and good. If not, you have an option to go for certificates. And even within the same time, you can also pick and choose which one you want. So there's absolute flexibility in this one. And so in this green term ahead contract, we have multiple market segments: intraday, day-ahead, continuously, daily, weekly, beyond monthly also. So where the trading happens in different logics. So there's a week auction mechanism, there's a continuous trading matching mechanism. We can I'm interested, if you're interested, I can definitely elaborate on this as well at the later stage in the Q&A. So I just want to conclude here that we have all the market segments which are there in exchange. You can trade from 1 hour ahead to 3 months ahead. It is completely flexible. There is a guarantee of payment for the sellers. There is guarantee of schedule for the buyers. And it's absolutely flexible. So that's the key point. So whenever you're looking for short-term requirements, exchanges offer the best solution in this one. Obviously, you can have a longer term depending on the banking and other clauses and others state level things. So definitely you may look for that. But in the short-term segment, exchanges do provide a best option. So that's it. I would like to stop here. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for an insightful and interesting presentation. So once again, thank you, speakers, for sharing your perspective, thoughts, and insights about the opportunities for green power procurement by industries and emerging and innovative solutions offered by RE developers in India. now we'll move on to the panel discussion and question and answer session. Mr. Bikinna had to leave for some urgent work. So now we have Mr. Ravi and Mr. Sriram for the question and answer session. So I invite both of them for the panel discussion and Q&A session, and I'll be asking questions to specific panelists. We are also receiving questions from the audience, so we'll take some of them as well. Just a request to be precise in terms of response, maybe a couple of minutes so that we can take more questions. So the first question to Mr. Ravi. In the last couple of years, I would say there are two dedicated green products, right? GTAM and GDAM, which you talked about, which are launched on the exchanges. And the share of these green products in the total transaction volume through exchanges is also rapidly growing. So how do you see it scaling up in the future? Will there be more green products introduced on the exchange?
So in terms of green volumes, there is definitely an uptick. First of all, it is happening, as I mentioned, because of the interest from the sellers. The main hurdle only being the financing capability, because lenders are generally not very pro to giving merchant plans. But in the last 1.5 to 2 years, because of the prices, so at least in the last 1 year, 1.5 years, when the prices were high, there's a significant interest. We get inquiries from all the major developers that everyone is looking to set up a merchant capacity or in the offering. So that's one reason why we see definitely a scope in increase. And second, as any merchant, as any market progresses, there is a gradual shift. So we always take this example that probably only in the one commodity like electricity, where we have this 25-year long-term rigid contracts, which may not be there in other commodities, as and when electricity is a commodity. So thermal, it has already progressed. Renewables also, we see that merchant capacity addition. And third, in the long-term bidding, in all the clauses, whether it is SECI, NTPC, whoever is the agency, they are all clearly, you can see those clauses where there's a gradual shift, either in terms of reduction of PPA tenure or a combination of market-based sale, which is mandatory. So sell side, there is adequate liquidity. Buy side, I need not emphasize. You have seen there is a pull factor from buyers. You are all well aware of the buyers, why they are put. So I see definitely there is a growth. In terms of new products, it's completely dependent on market, because we have come up with this product when there is no merchant capacity as well. We wanted to, because it's always a chicken and egg solution, that whether we should come up market first or whether players will come. So we took the bait, and hopefully we have been successful. So I hope that we continue as well.
Thank you. So just follow-on question, Mr. Ravi. How does IEX enable ease of green power procurement for industrial consumers?
Yeah. So there is absolute, this may be repetitive, but it is completely flexible. So when we are saying flexible, you can pick and choose. So the biggest pain point for any customer to procure power in long-term agreement is his inability to pick and choose which time blocks. So his demand curve will not be in sync with the generation curve. So he has to somehow manage all that within using different solutions. So this provides absolute flexibility, one. Second, we have, in addition, in line with all the other initiatives, we have also given an exclusive green membership option. It's significantly competitive. So I can talk numbers to whoever is interested, but it's highly competitive. It's less than 10% or 15% of the standard membership plan. So if you are looking only for green procurement, it's absolutely competitive. And in terms of clients, in terms of promoting, giving options, we have given all the possible flexibilities in terms of renewing members. And the recent one, actually the last contract which I mentioned, single-side reverse auction, that was a recent most edition. Because all these contracts did not come in a single day. We started in 21st August 20 with GTAM of 2 contracts. Then in December, we added daily and weekly. And then in October 21, we have added this GDAM. And then within this year, we came up with LDC contract, longer duration, where we have added again daily, weekly, monthly, and then now recently a single-side reverse option. So we come up with multiple contracts so that it helps. It helps for the flexibility of the customers.
Thank you. I would say just again a follow-up question, and there is a lot of debate happening in India about this. So how do you see the overall short-term power market evolving in India? Specifically, one parameter which is long-term versus short-term, right? You also shown in your slide that what should be the optimal number, or there should not be any number, right? So what's your view on that?
So exchange is only a small player in this one, but I will talk about the government perspective first of all. So all the initiatives which were taken in the last couple of years, if there is one common underlying theme, it is market-centric approach. So you can see the introduction of green markets, you can see the introduction of real-time market, you can see the introduction of ancillary markets, whatever, and it could not take off the market-based economic dispatch. But all the concepts, all the whatever market guidelines and others are coming, everything is pro-market. And as I was saying, even in the long-term bids, reduction of tenure or mandatory market participation. So all of them are now pro-market, and it's a push factor. I'm only talking about the push factor. Pull factor we already explained, because of flexibility, because of transparency in prices, because of no rigid commitments. So there are a number of reasons why long-term is always a problem. That in COVID, at least most of the buyers could understand that. So I'll ignore the pull factors. But push factor in the government is gradually pushing towards. And there's a reason, as I said, just like as and when the electricity gets commoditized and it moves from a social good to a market-based product. So this is bound to happen. Now, the only concern is if everything is market-driven, will we be, if something happens, where is the grid security? So even for this, now we are seeing gradually, I presume capacity markets are also being talked about. So there is a gradual shift. We don't know the percentage where we will land up, but just one number in the last 5 years, there is no long-term PPA, thermal PPA, which has got set. And there's a significant delays which happen in the long term, because now no one is actually interested to just take 15-year, 25-year long-term PPA, even with the renewable base. So that's the reason why there's a gradual shift. We don't know the shift velocity of the shift, but the shift is definitely.
Thank you, Ravi. We are getting some questions from the audience as well, so let me take those. First question is to be asked to Mr. Sriram. How Energy Conservation Amendment Act 2022 going to affect the industry's power consumption, and is there any such provisions that mandates industries to go for green power option?
Yeah, so the energy conservation, the amendment actually is more focused on the consumption part of the electricity. So it's less on the generation part. So it actually provides an enabling provision for the government to specify some obligations for industries, transport, and other sectors to procure mandatorily energy from renewable energy sources. So that is something, once it actually gets operationalized, so there's going to be more and more consumption, which necessarily needs to actually adopt for renewable energy. And the other factor is on the carbon market. So that's actually under discussion. But what I see is that once this the targets are actually announced, the sector-wise targets are announced, they're going to be more of demand which is going to come up suddenly in the market for the green power.
Okay, moving on, we have some more questions from the participants. So this one is for Mr. Ravi. Can we get green power in Nimrana, Rajasthan, below grid power tariff? A very specific question.
So I would request you to connect to me offline, because, but I will tell you the basic concept. Any any customer would be actually looking at the landed cost. So as I said, I could not elaborate on the price discovery mechanism. So the price which you see in exchange is at the regional periphery. So from the regional periphery, there will be transmission charges and losses. Depending on where you're connected. If you're connected directly at the CTU level, then it's only CTU charges and losses. If you're connected STU, you have to add STU, and if you're connected DISCOM, you have wheeling charges. And in addition, you have to see for cross-subsidy and additional surcharge. So with all these numbers, probably I doubt with the current prices if it's a viable proposition. But as I said, we have to check what is your DISCOM tariff there, what is the net tariff, and we have to only check the energy tariff, not the fixed one. So if you wish, you can directly connect me in this offline. I can provide you my details. Or I will just, in the chat box itself, I'll just type my name and email ID and numbers. So you can directly connect.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. I think there is one more question. It is again directed to you, Mr. Ravi. Regarding term ahead market, how long is the time block for the settlement? Is it 15 minutes? Similar to DAM?
So all the contracts in exchanges, there is something called scheduled and there is something called, I don't know what you're referring as contract, but so we have variety of contracts. So when you're, for example, let us say you're bidding for a daily contract. So when you're bidding in a daily contract, it's an RTC, round the clock for the entire day. But the actual bid will happen in terms of megawatt. When you're actually seeing the schedule, you will see only in megawatt. For 15-minute time blocks, this is the megawatt, but it's an RTC, round the clock. Similarly, let us say you are bidding for a monthly. So it's entire month. But within month, we may have certain contracts. Let us say in month, we have another contract which we have recently introduced, only peak 18 to 23 hours, but for the entire month. So you have to take for all the 30 days, 28 days, 31 days, but it's for only 18 to 23 hours. So we keep on getting fungible, we keep on getting requests. So we keep on introducing some more new contracts, but they're only finite. There's a restriction on how many contracts which you can introduce. So I hope this is clear. Again, if not, you can either pose a question or we can discuss offline.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. The next question is to Mr. Shriram. There are plenty of options available for consumers wishing to procure clean energy. But what is the most desired or preferred option by industries?
Yeah, so it is a good question. So again, my answer, so partly I actually covered this question actually in my slide that it actually depends on how your targets are actually set. So say your target is set for example, I want to only consume 20% of my consumption in renewable. So you will go for example, a particular technology. Or else, so even my colleague Ravi who added, so you can actually also have a combination of the long-term and the short-term options, because many industries or commercial consumers, their load vary significantly during the day and then during the off. For example, I'll say you are a big complex, which is a shopping mall. So your load varies significantly on the weekends and then on the holidays and all that. So it doesn't make much sense for you to actually procure your power for round the clock for that high requirement. So what the most optimum way you can do is that, for example, you can go for a long term. Plus addition, you can go for a short term. So that way you're actually trying to meet your targets, renewable energy consumption targets, in the most optimum manner. But again, it actually, so whether it is long term versus short term, so depends on how soon you want to scale up. So there are, for example, certain industries who are thinking that maybe I think my other colleague also talked, let me just solarize my rooftop first because it's my easiest thing. Or else, in fact, we have seen that there are some industries who have just started with renewable energy procurement in exchange, because that is the most easiest way just to test that whether I'm able to absorb renewable power, or I'm able to absorb market power, or I'm able to operate in the framework or not, because even solarizing their rooftop actually has a cost associated with it, but the exchange is a very in and out easy exit option. So some people have started. So again, it depends on how you want to start your journey or how much you want to actually procure, or depending on your load requirements, you can choose the most optimum way. And lastly, even I think I spoke about it and Mr. Shivram also spoke about it. There are plenty of options, and then huge amount of upcoming capacities which are there. So now it is for industries to embrace the renewable energy and the change.
If you don't mind, I would just like to add one point here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, so long term, there is always an advantage, at least for the captive customers. But the only thing is, because for captive, there is no CSS and AS, obviously there's a significant advantage. The only point to consider is because there has been a significant pushback from DISCOMs on these transactions because of certain issues. There are pseudo captive transactions which have happened. There is that concern which need to be kept in mind. And second, so if it happens in the group captive structure, it may impact everyone, every customer who has been in this one. Second, banking has been a very, very big pain point for the distribution companies. So now the green energy open access rules which have come kind of settles it with 1 month banking. But again, there is pushback whether it should be 1 month, 3 months. But in any case, banking is a big problem, and even the ministry and others now they're saying with the introduction of real-time market and with the introduction of so many market segments, is banking a correct proposition? So gradually we may either see a shift in long-term contracts also with a combination of solar, wind, and hydro storage, some kind of, so that even the companies, customers also will be looking at a flatter profile or somehow trying to match their demand profile, or utilize, in addition to this, utilize markets. So that's the thing which we have been using.
Hitesh, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Ravi, for the supplementing that. I think we have now limited time, so I'll ask maybe 1 or 2 questions now. So the next question is for Mr. Ravi. Does IEX plan to introduce long-term green contracts, say as long as 1 year tenure, to cater to the buyers looking to secure future supplies? So this is basically subject to CRC. We will always be interested in introducing new contracts because currently we have only approval up to 3 months. So CRC will definitely review this experience, and probably in the next review cycle. And once GNA comes, there is also a reason why this 3 months has been, because the current transmission corridor booking can only done up to 3 months. So there is no point, and exchanges operate only on the inherent margins in the system. We cannot have more than that. So, but once, let us say GNA comes and we have TGNA up to 11 months, and then probably it will be synced, and it also depends on CRC's approval on this. As exchange obviously will be introduced, we will be happy to introduce any partners there. Great, thank you. Maybe I'll just ask a last one quick question to Mr. Shriram. What are the existing challenges in policy and regulation? What would be the mitigation measures? If you can answer briefly.
So, okay, this is a vast subject depending actually upon the state where you are and all that. But just to answer the question, so there, there might be certain aspects on the central policy or central regulations and the state policy and central regulations where there would be a slight mismatch or they are little not in sync. So if you are trying to actually procure some power from out of the state into your demand center, which is there in a particular state, so you probably need to thoroughly assess that aspects. So whether it is actually duration or waivers, charges, or the settlement aspects, they might be little different, or whether an interstate power has. So that is one set of challenges which might be there. But if you are there within the state, so predominantly the challenges actually come, as Ravi also talked about, is one of the thing is actually banking. So where a lot of these issues actually come up with respect to whether how to settle that banking or carry forward, not carry forward. And so the initial part of the contract actually looks fairly easy, and most of the industries are able to navigate that part very easily, because you are just asking some developer to set up the plant, and it is actually happening up to regulations, and then that developer is the one who's actually taking the maximum risk of the policy and the regulatory framework. So that there ends the risk for the developer. But once the PPA gets operationalized, then the challenges which are actually coming up, whether the industries are geared up for scheduling, or whether the industries are geared up for deviation settlement mechanisms, or whether the industries are geared up for this. So if I just within the state, if I just bucket it, so the developer related challenges are there, for example, securing open access, or what incentives or what qualifies for incentives and all that. But to a large extent, we have observed that developers are able to handle those uncertainties or issues within their framework. But once the contract gets operationalized, that is where we are actually seeing some challenges which industries are facing, because they probably have not thought it through. And as I said earlier, they just only looked at two numbers, which is how much capex should I put, or how much is my levelized tariff.
If you don't mind, I would just like to add 2 points here.
Yeah.
So I have some specific points, policy regulatory issues which are there. Definitely banking and others, which Sriram has mentioned, that's correct. The ISTS charges actually in the GTAM and GDAM, there's a waiver of ISTS charges which has been proposed or given by MOP. It has been not yet been implemented by CRC for green markets. And but at least the dynamic interchangeability, which has been a long pending demand, that has been done. Dynamic interchangeability among certificates and with the green power and certificates, fungibility, which we are talking about. And forecasting and scheduling, uniformity of forecasting and scheduling regulations, probably that will help across states, because if we want a national market, if that it's uniform, then only it can help. So that's it. I just wanted to add this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi. With this, we are closing our panel discussion and Q&A session. It was quite interesting. Thank you all the speakers for excellent discussion and thought-provoking insights. Moving on to the last session, now I would like to invite Dr. A.M. Siddiqui, representative NEDO India, to deliver closing remarks and vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Siddiqui.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
The video is on, but it is on. Okay. Very good afternoon, everybody present in today's webinar. Myself, A.M. Siddiqui, I am the representative of NEDO New Delhi office. At the outset, let me thank and appreciate our eminent panel of speakers who have given insights about such an important topic. I guess it was quite interesting and touched many aspects of power consumption, such as greening power, green energy, and so on. I also thank the audience for their active participation. Let me thank our esteemed speakers, namely Mr. Sriram Potluri, Director PwC India, for making such a detailed, insightful presentation and setting the context on such an important aspect, which is the topic of the day. I also thank Mr. Shivaram Bekina, Chief Rooftop Business Tata Power, for their interesting presentation, and Mr. Ravi Kiran Kuchi, Vice President, Indian Energy Exchange, for a wonderful presentation and answering many of the questions. Let me also thank my colleague, Mr. Hattori, for his introductory remark, and Mr. Hitesh Chaniara, Executive Director, PwC India, for moderating the session and setting the context so nicely for the day, which generated a lot of heat and food for thought. I am also grateful to the PwC team members and their dedicated team for their wonderful coordination. I also thank our tech team, including Mr. Vicky Kalra, for a flawless session technically. Once again, I thank everyone for their participation. Please take care of yourself and stay safe and have a good day ahead. Thank you very much once again. It was quite interesting and happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Siddiqui. With this, we are now closing our webinar. Once again,
sir, I'm so sorry. Just to intervene, before we close this, I'd request everybody to kindly put on the video so that we can take a quick photograph of all the panelists.
My video is on, but it is not coming.
Yeah, now it is there.
No, it's coming. You are visible, sir.
Visible?
So all are visible now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Just a moment, please.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, with this, we are now closing our webinar. Once again, thank you to all speakers and participants for attending the webinar. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yash? Yash, are you there? Yash, are you there? हाँ भाई बताओ। और बेंचोत कोई जिम्मेदारी नाम की चीज तेरी है कि नहीं है? मतलब कल फोन उठाना ही बंद कर दिया तूने? अगर सोने जा रहा था पहले सुन लिया कर। तू सवाल से पहले बेंचोत एक्सक्यूज देने को तैयार रहता है, या तो कुछ